you know.
Good afternoon.
Have it ready.
All right, so November 16th, Nantucket Board of Health meeting is now open. Just to remind everyone, this meeting is being audio and visually recorded. I do not see any public. Those watching us, you can we'll have a call-in show.
You should set up a conference call.
Yeah. All right. Review the minutes of October 19th. Those have been distributed. Any comments, additions, corrections?
No.
Do I hear a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chairman says aye. Minutes are approved. Waiver of fees for DPW structure move from 81 Shore Road to 188 Nantucket.
Yes, so this is a DPW building that they're trying to move from where the sewer is right now.
South Shore.
Yeah, from South Shore Road, where the sewer department is, and move it over to the Nantucket Road. And they have to connect it to the septic system and everything there, so they're asking for us to waive the fees.
Is it a storage building? What kind of a building?
It's just a temporary building. It was one of the old classrooms at the elementary school.
There's no bathrooms or anything in it?
There are.
There's
Yeah.
a bathroom in there.
They just need to
So
connect.
where do they hook it to for sewage?
There is a septic system out there.
Okay.
They just need us to waive the fee because it's a town.
Okay, yeah, no, fine.
I don't hear any objections. Do I hear a motion to approve the waiver?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor of approving the waiver for the waiver for DPW, say aye.
Aye.
Chairman says aye. Waiver is approved. Variance for 6 Pippin's Way, use of a tight tank.
And I'm going to recuse myself on this one because I
Okay.
have the potential contract with the...
Okay.
So the engineer actually wasn't going to be able to make it over today, but Mr. Bracken is asking for this a tight tank variance right now. What this process is Pippin's Way has already been voted in, and they're going to be getting sewer relatively soon. They're hoping to schedule the construction to intersect with when the sewer is there. But in case the sewer gets delayed in any way, they want to get permission to put in a tight tank in that time frame until the sewer is available and they can tap in, so that they don't have to wait with an empty house for.
Yeah, and they would use the sewer as soon as it's in.
As soon as it's in.
Questions?
I got a problem with it being a tight tank. I mean, the board has tried to stay away from tight tanks as much as we could. And originally, if this is the same person, didn't he agree to put in a Title V system and then take it out when the sewer came?
Yes, they were going to start construction immediately. So what they were going to do was when they started construction, because they knew it was going to end early, at the time the sewer construction hadn't even been scheduled yet, they were going to put in a regular septic system and then connect when the sewer came by. But since then, their construction schedule actually got delayed by almost a year, and our construction schedule was released, so it looks like the two are going to intersect within a reasonable time frame, within about 30 to 60 days.
But isn't the overall financial thing basically the same? You put that 4,000-gallon tight tank in the ground. When the sewer comes, you have to take that out.
If you put in a full septic system, depending on the type of system they put in, which will most likely be trenches, they would have to take the trenches out, but you can just crush the septic system, the tank in place.
I'm talking about the cost to take the tight tank out.
Yeah, so it'll be very similar as far as mobilization fees and excavation fees. The permitting fee is a little bit lower, but that's minimal. And then when it comes time to abandon it, they can easily just fill it with sand or crush it in place.
Well, my question is, so the cost for one is basically the same cost for the other one?
They're within...
If he already said to put the Title V in, I just feel that we should try to stay away from tight tanks as long as we can. Because if you let this guy do it, you're going to have someone come down the road who's going to be in the same position somewhere down at Somerset Road or something, has a house built, and, oh, it's right around the corner, I want a tight tank. That's the only thing I'm thinking about this. If you do it for one person, you have to do it for the next one. And where this guy has already agreed to put a Title V system in, why don't we just let him put a Title V system in? It's not that much, the cost is gonna be basically the same.
The only reasoning on this one, the reason the staff recommended it on it is the time frame. The chances are that they're not even going to have to put in any of it. They'll be able to connect to the sewer as soon as the construction is done, because the sewer line may be there. They're requesting the tight tank variance as a contingency plan.
So maybe they should come back. I mean, if that's enough of a concern.
I mean,
Yeah, if
And
you would
if
like,
they-
we can.
you know,
if
if
it's
it's-
close enough, if the time
Yeah.
frame, if all of a sudden the sewer's, down the road.
Yeah.
We could definitely table this rather than taking a negative or a positive vote on it. We can definitely table this until we get a more hardened time frame.
I think that, I'd be more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be.
So, we will, if there are no objections from the board, we will table this, and when we get closer to when the two shall meet, we'll address it again.
Sounds
They
good.
may not have to do anything.
Yeah, they may not have to do anything.
If it's a week, if it's 6 months,
Exactly.
That's
It depends
very
on
different.
construction delays.
yeah, fine. So it's tabled with no objections.
Thank you.
Food truck variance,
Or 167. Yeah, so this is a straightforward food truck if you want to. It is the original food truck from before is no longer around. Mr. Sandoli has purchased a new truck which has meets all the criteria that we have set forth. We have an application in with a signed lease for a base of operations. And the request here is the same one, to stay in location for 7 days. We did have the general variance request approval.
That's why I'm asking, why are we
Yep.
seeing this?
This one is more of the reason we're bringing this up again is because Jesse and I had been in conversations, and it's one of the, we want to make sure the board approves this one, because of, Jesse is definitely, if you would like to talk, you would
Oh,
understand,
sure.
Please.
so that we can,
As,
Because I'm
Body-
still mystified why it's here, so go ahead.
sorry, what was the question?
We had given a general variance and let the staff actually make some of these decisions. So
Okay.
I'm just curious why you're here, that's all.
I was told to submit a variance request
Yeah.
form. Like Roberto said, following the 2016 season, we got a new truck, which is, drivable and much more easy to transport. We have a new base of operations, which is out by the airport, much easier to get to, and operating in a stationary manner. It makes obviously the most sense for us to be able to transport product back and forth, refrigerated truck, so on and so forth. So we are here trying to see that through.
But if you were asked
It's-
by staff to complete a form, it sounds like you're bringing this back, and I think that the question's still germane, why are you bringing it back?
yeah, the question remains, the reason we're putting it on the board is because I don't know, you may have been on the board at the time, about a year and a half ago, there was some controversy.
There was this, yes, I remember that.
So what
There were
was
some issues about this.
yeah? So this being the very first being brought back with the same location, we just wanted to make sure the board is aware and be above, more than anything, above board. It's
Could we have your name for the record, please?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Jesse Sandoli.
Thank you.
But at the staff level, everybody is
yes,
A-okay.
yes, yes. This one is a ratification vote.
Yeah, Jim, there were a lot of issues in this. Okay. And I think, it seems to me that everybody's worked through this, and everyone is talking to
Correct.
each other in a civil manner.
So we won't see you ever again.
I can't guarantee that, but hopefully only for productive reasons.
Okay,
Good. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the variance for the food truck? Aye.
Aye.
Chairman says aye.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Jesse. I'll see you later.
One request.
Well, just as a
sorry.
quick matter of disclosure, just so you know as well, the attorney who was representing Jesse before, Mr. Merberg, did contact us to say he was going for this variance. I don't know if he has contacted any board members. It's not a violation of open meeting law, but I just wanted to make it above board so that everyone knows that we have been in conversations with the attorney as well.
Okay.
So,
Fine.
and you may have contacted members of the board.
All right.
Okay. Good to go.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jesse.
We have a loan request for septic to sewer.
This one is a loan request for one of the Dukes Road properties. They're going from septic to sewer. He already has everything planned and ready to go. He just needs the funding. Straightforward.
Questions?
Okay, no problem.
Do I hear a motion to approve the loan request?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I just had a question about
Please.
the process for repayment and what guarantees we have and what happens if people don't pay and those kinds of things.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a good question. It's great to bring it up every year or so. The process for the repayment is done through the assessor's office. They receive a bill for 1/20th of the loan amount. It is amortized over 20 years on the tax. So if the house gets sold, it does continue on with the property. It's treated as a lien.
And do we check to make sure their tax payments are up to date before we authorize this?
Yes, we do. Before we send anything here, we do have to connect with Elizabeth.
Okay.
Roberto, does that lien have to be satisfied if the property is sold, or does it go with the property?
It just goes with the property.
Okay.
We just take it on as a regular tax, so it doesn't prevent any lien,
So then in a
any
real
property
estate
sale.
thing, like where I'm in business, I have to make sure that that travels to the next buyer.
It's recorded on the deed, so if they're doing any of the purchase, when they do the title search, it will show up,
Okay.
so that so that any buyer knows that there's an
They're still going to
extra
be paying that.
fee on this.
Okay.
Okay, so all in favor of the loan request?
Aye.
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 Chairman says aye, it's approved. We have another one
Mm-hmm.
for 22 in Hawthorne.
Yes. So 8
This
and
is for
9.
a repair.
Yeah, 8 and 9
Oh,
both
this
go
is-
together.
This is, oh, yes. This is 8 and 9. This is,
The loan request.
it's, yes.
So 8 and 9 go together. It is the same property that we have been discussing here over the past few months.
Yes.
The work most of the work is completed. The
Good.
septic system is working. They're still waiting on the IA component to be delivered. But they do have a manufacturing, they sent us the contract and everything. So it is going to be installed, and then we'll be paying the contractor directly. The only caveat that we ask as a staff to the board is that there are some outstanding fines. So before we release any of the funds, we would request that those fines get paid. But other than that, we have no objection to the loan itself.
We still have a completion date on this, right?
Yes, the delivery of the IA component is supposed to be next week, which would make the installation the week after.
Providing they satisfy the problems they have.
The problems are being,
Problem solved, it's a
Yeah,
mesh, so.
yeah, as far as the loans go, they just have a
But the loan
outstanding
request
fine.
wouldn't be made unless they pay their fines. That's what you're asking us.
That's what we're requesting.
Now, we heard last month that they were waiting for a piece of that system.
It's the same.
And
piece.
and it was, oh, well, it's going to be here next week. And now it's a month later, so.
So the construction that was supposed to be done next week was done. The trenches, the trench was replaced, and the system is functional as a regular Title V
Right.
system now. So it's not hydraulically failed. But the nitrogen reducing component, you have to order them. They're created per order.
No, I understand, but we were told by the representative of the owner last month that it was, on its way. It was being built.
Yeah.
We're going to have it next week, and it's all going to be done.
Yeah.
So that didn't happen.
Well, that's why I asked about the completion date.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna stand by the completion date that they agreed to.
Yes, they are still on track to meet the completion date of I think it was December like 10th or 14th. It was right before the next meeting was the completion
Are
date.
you satisfied with everything?
And
They will still make
They have a
that.
functioning system.
And they have a functioning system, so the
Which is fine.
condemnation is no longer stands.
So I need a motion to grant the loan request for 22 in Hawthorne, but on the condition that all fines are paid before any money is released. That's the motion I'd like.
I'd make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Fine.
What's the approximate amount of the fines?
About $3,000.
Okay.
Two $1,500 fines.
We have, wow, 4. Here we go. Okay, why don't you start with 353?
So the next 4 items are all related to the same storm. We did issue all of these as emergency condemnations. We are asking for ratification from the board. 353 Nantucket Road was within about 10 feet of the bluff before the storm showed up. Luckily, Atlantic Aeolus was able to get out there a few hours before the storm showed up, day of the storm, and they moved the house back just in time to prevent the house from going in. Actually, the foundation of that house did end up collapsing. The house right now is on lifts and it is unoccupied. The septic system was compromised for the next 2 properties, 353 and 4 Ames. The septic system was compromised. It was a shared system, and we are in the process of having them remove the leaching pit and the septic tank.
So
from
these
there.
4 properties have the same system? That's
353 Nantucket and 4 Ames have the same system.
Okay. And what's the story with the other 2?
The other 2 are out on Sheep Pond, which is on the other side of Nantucket. They saw a significant level of erosion. They actually had more erosion than the tip of Nantucket Road. And the 16 Sheep Pond actually lost its deck and its foundation is exposed. So they are already in the process of getting a demolition permit and getting that house removed. And then 29 Sheep Pond lost its septic system, but the house is still intact.
So the house is gonna get moved back?
The property owner of 353 Nantucket has expressed interest in demolition, just removing the house altogether. 4 Ames has expressed interest in selling the house and having it moved off the lot. The 16 Sheep Pond is going to demolish, and we still haven't heard back from 29 Sheep.
Okay.
Okay.
So any other questions? We'll vote on them separately, but we'll ask questions on any 4 the board has.
No question.
All right, let's take this. We need a motion to approve the condemnation order for 353 Nantucket.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's 353 Nantucket's condemned. How about 4 Ames Avenue?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
4 Ames is condemned. 6 Sheep Pond Road. 16 Sheep Pond.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
16 Sheep is condemned. And finally, 29.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
29 Sheep Pond is condemned. Local upgrade, reaffirm in-house approval.
Yes. So 14, the local upgrade approval is a term in Title V. There was a motion by the board about 15, 16 years ago to give in-house local upgrade approval to do things when there's things like maximum feasible compliance, siting of septic systems, when they're within we have our well regulation, and the well has the 300 feet down gradient versus the 100 foot by Title V. If they are 279 feet or 280 feet away, there was a vote a long time ago to allow that to be done in-house, little local upgrades. The problem with all of that is we can't find the motion. It was not in the minutes. We know it was on the agenda. We saw it on the agenda. So Artel did request to me that we reaffirm that vote, that we can do the regular local upgrades. Otherwise, everything from as simple as putting in a drip dispersal system would have to come to the board.
Okay, that's.
Do you have language for a motion?
Just the same thing that we called it, just local upgrade reaffirmation for Title V local upgrade approval.
So I make a motion that we.
Yeah, can we
go ahead.
define any specific upgrades, or is that too
The
complicated?
definition in Title V is local upgrade approval.
Is there a list, a specific list of things?
That's what I'm
Yes,
saying.
it's
It's
delineated in
it's
Title
Title
V.
So the term in Title V is local upgrade approval.
Yes.
So, okay, so now Jim started to make a motion. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
So I make a motion that we reaffirm an earlier board action to approve the ability for local upgrade
For Title V.
for Title V.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of that?
Aye.
Upgrade, say aye.
Okay.
And caps on betterment loans?
Yes, in the recent year, we have had a lot of interest in the new betterment loans between sewer, the IA systems, and there was an original idea in the betterment loan program to set a salary cap, an income cap, which we have blown through. So one of the things that we're looking at is in the most recent round of septic system loans, we went through approximately 10% of the money we had left on one loan, an $83,000 loan, in the last meeting. So it was suggested, and we've decided in the office that we would request here that we can cap the loans at $50,000. So because when people are putting in an IA system, $50,000 per system. Because when we've been seeing some people put in an IA system, and then they're also saying it's tearing up my landscaping, and they end up with a $29,000 rose bush, we end up paying for it. So we're suggesting caps on this so that we end up letting people connect to sewer, still having money available to give the loans out without covering extravagant costs. 50,000 was the number we decided in
Why'd
the
you come up
office.
with 50,000? That's
Because-
an average.
It's really where it comes down to. It's an average.
How many loans do we give above 50?
Very rare.
But we have.
In the past 2 years since I've been here, we've only given about 5. There was one for 73,000, but they never took all 73 out. The one from 2 months ago was 83. There was a $56,000 loan, which obviously, if there's a buffer, things like that, we can definitely take them case by case. But it's usually the landscaping that throws it above the $50,000 mark.
So the loans are actually given only when you have a contract price for an installation?
Yes.
So we know when we give the loan how much it is?
Yes, and most of the time, I would say that almost every time, the actual cost comes in below the estimates, so we don't end up giving the full amount of money that the loan was approved for. That's what has let this program go further than it has. It's just in this last round when we approved an $83,000 loan, which totally understandable. It is an expensive system. It was a shared system, so it needed to be big. But the landscaping, even though because we covered the landscaping with this loan, the landscaping pushed that up by about $20,000.
Do we get a certain amount of money every year, or like
No,
next, do we have to reapply?
next year, next town meeting, annual town meeting, not this one coming this April of 2018, but the one of 2019, we'll be requesting from the state revolving fund another $2 million.
Because I mean, I'd be in favor of putting a cap on it just so that we can reach more people. And I mean, some of these jobs, especially when it comes to the IAs, are chews that money up really quick.
Yeah, I can chew it up. The sewer ones we've been seeing rarely past 20. Like we'll approve it for like 36, 40. But when the actual numbers come in, a lot of them come in at around 18 or so. The IAs do come in at around 43, 45. So that's why we said 50, because it adds an extra 10% buffer.
So have you done a projection on what kind of expectation of potential loans to make sure we have enough money?
Yes. So we have approximately $860,000 left in this. On average, we get 2 loan requests a month. So between that, we will still run out, regardless of the numbers. So we would like to cap it at 50 so that we can at least push it
So why don't we
forward.
go back and ask for more money in April?
We would have to add it to, I can talk to the town manager and see if we can get it in on the April one.
Because if we're
Absolutely.
gonna
We don't
run
want to
out-
run out of money.
We're going to
Yeah.
run out of money.
Yeah, we don't want to run out of money.
And it's going to be very hard. There'll be a lot of conflict for us to tell people to put in IA
Yes.
systems with no money.
The issue that's coming forward is actually going to be more the sewer than the
Right.
IAs.
Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a lot in the next year.
Yeah, the next year it's going to
And
be sewer.
we've been out, we sold the sewer saying that we're going to have this program available.
Yeah.
We have to have it available.
So-
I think you need to get a warrant this year.
Okay, I'll contact the town manager as soon as I'm done here to add
So
something.
should we make a motion to that effect?
Yes, let's do that, because I can imagine the letters
Yes.
already when we run out of money.
Yes.
So do we want to put a dollar amount on it, or let you
Well-
two work it out, or?
We're only allowed to request a maximum of $2 million each time. The reason we are not too worried about it right now, but I do understand the fear, was because the first $2 million took 10 years to spend.
Yeah, but
But
We
now
haven't had a
we've-
we haven't had a sewer
But we haven't
project.
had a sewer, so you bring up an excellent point.
sewer and our IA system regulations are, what, 3 years?
So do we want another 2 million or 1 million, or what's the?
I would recommend making the town meeting vote for $2 million,
Yes,
so that
okay.
we always have the option to get the maximum.
So,
Oh, okay,
so
so-
we need a motion that we want you to have a warrant for $2 million in the next town
And
meeting.
what about caps?
Well, let's do that.
Yeah, so I'd make a motion that we ask the Board of Selectmen to add a warrant to the April town meeting to, increase the funding or
Well,
What
to
do-
apply for another $2 million.
to apply for $2 million from a state revolver for the,
Septic betterment
Septic-
loan program.
Yeah, something-
okay.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion as stated, which is essentially asking the Board of Selectmen to put a warrant on for another $2 million request from the state at the next town meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote aye, so we will, and please, Earl, either the staff or our Board of Selectmen representative know how that goes.
Yes, I will definitely put that on.
Because
The
it
agenda
need-
next
it
month
needs
also.
to be done, or as Jim pointed out, I can see great conflict ahead.
Yes.
As for the cap, do we have any questions or comments on the
No.
cap?
I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
Don't you too?
Landscaping, I know, I've been involved with some of those jobs, and a lot of the prices, some of the guys figure everything in, right back to,
Oh, yeah.
it's, a lot of the cost.
Okay.
So just to be devil's advocate for a minute, I mean,
Yes, sir.
let's just make sure that we haven't created the expectation that those kinds of things are covered by a loan. And I'm just more, it's more of a perception issue than anything else. Because we did talk about the fact that as we reviewed the cost of the new sewer system, it was all of those things, and we talked about landscaping, and we said loans are available, but I don't know if we ever restricted it, saying, well, you're on your own, we'll pay for this, but not for that. And I'm fine with the cap, I'm fine with 50,000, but I'm just questioning that from a perception standpoint.
Okay. Jim, you bring up an excellent point. With a lot of the loans, the original board that put this forth when we did create the Betterment Loan Program, I think it was in 2009 when the Betterment Loan Program was started. They put a salary cap, they put an income cap on it at 150,000, but then that was never adhered to, and that kind of created the problem that we're in right now because nobody had interest in the Betterment Loan Program at the time. And then we've passed these regulations and the sewer that has created this fervor for the need. And because that income cap was never adhered to, it created the situation we're in right now. So you bring up an excellent point that we have created the perception that this is what it covers. So I don't necessarily know at this moment how we can combat the backlash for the public perception.
There's no way you can control the landscape. I mean, we know
Yeah.
from experience how much an IA costs, and we know how much
Yes.
basically sewer costs. We have no way of knowing what the landscaping costs can be.
What-
we have no
what-
control over it.
What blew the previous loan up, the funding up, was they had to remove a rather old tree. And with the root system of that whole thing and getting all that moved, it got really expensive, and our loan covered all of that.
Do we want to do this because we've had two that are about 50,000?
Well, we've had approximately 5.
Fine.
It's just with the income that we have now, the amount of money we have in the reserve now, $50,000 is a little bit less than 10%.
So what do we do if someone asks for something and we only give them what the cap is 50,000 and the actual connections or the actual job that they need to do is more than that and they can't afford to do it, then what happens?
That is an excellent point. One of the things that we've been thinking about this as well, as far as the wording of the motion goes, is what we can say is total cost, including landscaping. But if the total cost not including landscaping, we can definitely work. I can work something up and put this in for next month.
Yeah,
but not including landscaping.
I'm not
we can
ready.
cap.
I'm not ready to vote
Okay, no, that's perfect.
because
We can set up a criteria
I
sheet
have
for
to
you.
think about whether. So we're doing this because we're 5 over. How much money we have, what the backlash, what's the best for the community.
Okay.
I don't have
Sounds
an
good.
opinion.
Sounds good.
And it'd be helpful for me to know what the range of expenses are, let's say to even taking out landscaping, because I know in Shimo it depends on how long your driveway is I think.
Yeah, that's a big
so-
one.
And,
We could
I don't know if,
I can create a proposal and get this to
If you
you
could get
in
to us
December.
lots of data,
Yes, I think sounds good.
like the numbers over, the average loan, blah, 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 and how much money is left in the pot. That would help me if you get it to at least a week before the December meeting.
Yes, we'll definitely get that to you
And then
before.
we can, because I'm not ready.
may I go back to the motion we took on the loan?
Please go right ahead.
So this comes from, so these are funds that are borrowed by the town of Nantucket. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, and so, just so the finance director has projections on financing and loans, and this will be a hiccup to that plan. Just so we all understand that. So we may need to do more than just make the motion. So
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I think the health department staff has to talk with town staff.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
And raise the flag that this
Right.
is an issue
Right.
coming, and we have to figure out how to deal with it in an appropriate way.
The finance director and I have had a conversation about this, and he knows
Okay.
that this is going to happen within the next year or two.
I know, but now we're
So we're
I
pushing
think
it up a little
I
bit.
guess my point is, the sooner you get to those folks,
Yes.
not just Libby, but also Brian.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll see if I can get in contact with Brian tomorrow.
Yeah, because I just have bad feeling somehow about all of this.
Okay.
We talked about this a while ago, this next one, about drainage discussions, pool regulations. It's kind of on my long list. You were proposing something, or we're going to do some
Yes.
work on it?
What I'm trying, sorry, I was just writing down
Yeah.
my action steps for this. Well, what we're trying to do over the last few weeks, we have seen now that we're getting out of season, people have been draining their pools and sometimes winterizing their homes, things like that. And what we've been running into is people are not dechlorinating, and a lot of people are draining their pool into the sewer system, or they're draining into parts of the storm drain system without dechlorination, which is a no-go. Sometimes they'll be doing the draining, and it ends up in their neighbor's property. One of the situations that we ran into 2 weeks ago that Hank responded to, they were draining a pool into their neighbor's well. It was getting really close to their well, and the water was percolating down to where their drinking water is from. So, and then on top of that, we've also seen dewatering permits, dewatering being done in town without any permitting, and there's no regulation to stop them. So right now we have a bylaw that says any dewatering needs to pull a permit, and then there's no enforcement on that. There's no price to the permits. There's no enforcement mechanism for any of the permits. So it's kind of becoming a free-for-all, including sump pumps. So some sump pumps are being installed, and the pipe is being put underneath the sidewalk, and it's draining right into the road. And
I'm familiar with one.
there's
one on.
there's one on
right
Water
there.
Street.
Yeah, but there's one right on where that old physical therapy place was, right next to that.
Yeah. So as of right now, we have no regulations to stop that.
What regulations do we have about the chlorine? And
The only regulations that's really kind of one of the things that came down to. I've been talking to Natural Resources, DPW, and our environmental police. What gets dropped into storm drains is DEP's. It's DEP's jurisdiction, and when we talk to the DEP, they're saying that's your local jurisdiction. So it turns into this. We push it back, and they keep saying home rule. Laws. So when we look at the town code, and when we look at our local regulations, we don't have any. We don't have any sump pump regulations. We don't have pool drainage regulations. We just have general best practices. There is nothing that enforces this.
Let me ask you a question. This is probably dumb, I should think of this, but where would they drain their pool?
So one of the best practices as far as pools go from other states is when you build a pool, you have to build a dry well as well. That would have capacity of at least 1/4 of the pool. So when they do exactly, it's significant. Because of the percolation rate. It's basically the same concept as a septic system. So when they dechlorinate the pool and they pull it out, they can drain it into this dry well, and it starts percolating out as they're pumping it through. The other best practices that we've been seeing out at like the Wachusett Reservoir area, they request that you pump it into over your grass, which is a good practice. but you have to make sure you have the proper rate. So what happened last week in Westchester, they were draining a pool, but they just put it in full, they put their pumps at full go, and it ended up flooding a neighbor's basement. So
I thought you didn't drain pools.
you in Massachusetts, people tend to drain the pools to just below the scuppers so that when the freezes come in, it doesn't break the pipes, which is usually
Right.
1/4 of the capacity of the
Yeah,
pool.
you get it down below, blow out all the pipes, seal those
Okay.
off, and then usually you put your cover on, and then your pool's going to fill up over when it rains again. I mean,
So what do we do, supposing we make a regulation about having this dry
Well-
well, and pools have been built without them? What do we
Yeah,
do?
moving forward, we can require the dry wells. For retroactively, for the people who are doing it now, is that they follow the best management. So at the very least, some sort of a filing, a notification that lets us know that they're going to drain. Because right now we don't know when these are draining, and we're finding out at the end when somebody's basement floods or when it ends up on somebody else's property in their well. We don't find out when this happens. So what we're requesting here is set up a public hearing probably in January or in February to give us time to create this so that we can get in contact with the pool companies, get their opinions on it, get their best practices, contact other towns and regulations to make sure we do a proper regulation.
Because some pumps, I know millions of people have some pumps in the basement, and they just pump it right outside.
Yeah, they pump a lot. You can pump it onto your property easily. It's the ones that are in town, for example, where they're pumping right into the road, and then in a freeze, it just turns that road into a,
you can get permission to tie
Yeah.
into the storm drains.
and you can get permission. So it'll be a conversation with DPW, sewer, Concom, and
Right, so how much do you want, January or February?
I would recommend January or February. If we do February, we will only get a lot of the local people, which tends to be a lot of the complaints that we receive that we don't let the seasonal people know.
But we don't want to wait till next summer.
But we don't want to wait till next summer, so it becomes a little bit of a catch-22.
But the pool companies will know.
The pool companies will
inform
know.
I
their-
think we can't wait till all the residents
Right.
come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you send a letter out?
We've definitely sent letters out, but only right now to the pool companies.
Okay.
I
Well, they know
know
who their clients are,
Yeah,
though.
right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
They
saying,
can
yeah.
ask them to send a letter.
exactly, and Concom already has a whenever they get a pool application that's within a buffer zone or things like that, they do set requirements on those pools so that there's no chemical additives added within 24 hours, and they have to do a dechlorination, and they put these rules on them, but there's no enforcement mechanism
So
after that.
does this become a natural resource regulations or Board of Health issues?
It would be, what we're looking to do is to make everyone able to respond to this. So
Yes.
natural resources, if police sees it, they can respond, we can respond, DPW can respond. So it's
But
a,
it would be the homeowner's responsibility, not the pool company.
it would be the homeowner's responsibility.
So
And if their pool company does something that ends up, it's still the homeowner's responsibility, and they end up, you lose
know
clients
what
that
they'll
way.
say, we closed the house up and we went home and we left it to the pool company.
Yeah.
So we would probably do well to have some kind of forum in July or August.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
we'll do the same thing.
After all this is done, yeah.
If, whatever we do, we'll have
We still have to have the forum anyway.
we still have to have the forum anyway.
Yeah, that forum request from the Nantucket residents was a great idea,
Yeah.
and I do suggest we do
Yeah, we'll do
the
it
forum
again.
every July.
And cover a number of issues.
hmm
Yeah.
I think it's a
All
great
right,
idea.
so we need, I think there's certainly consensus that we move forward with this, so we'll need a motion to establish a public hearing for the February Board of Health meeting
So moved.
on pool regulations.
I would say water discharge.
Water
regulations.
discharge and pool regulations. May I have such a motion?
I do, yes.
Second? No second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I had one discussion.
Please.
What is a lot of people have saltwater pools, and how is that figured into the?
Yeah.
The saltwater pools can actually be a lot worse for the environment
Right,
than a
yeah,
regular
yeah.
pool. It's still the same process. You just have to manage the water in a different way.
Okay, so it's more than just dechlorinating.
It's more than just
Okay.
dechlorinating, but it is. You still can make the water.
There will be debate on that. I did,
Yeah.
one town meeting ago, I got into a minor debate about this, so this is why we need at least till February, so we get all the information.
Yes.
Correct.
The two types of pools are definitely handled differently.
Yeah.
The chemicals used in both are too differently, but eventually the drainage will still be handled
Okay.
the same
Pretty
way.
much.
It's just you have to do it different steps.
Right. So the motions on the floor is to hold a public hearing on water discharge and pool regulations in February. All in favor?
Aye.
So be it. It will happen. We're back to the strategic plan.
Yes, I actually did not have time to send you a updated copy. We did have a person who does strategic plans for another organization on the island. She offered to take a look at it for free. So she did take a look, and she did provide some updates for it, including things like the cardiovascular and obesity risks that we discussed.
And statistics?
Mhm.
We had some, I don't know if you were here, we had some statistical
Discussion.
issues.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we definitely discuss, and it's definitely added in there that it is not a peer-reviewed article with the, we're not doing confidence intervals. We're not looking for statistical significance.
You're
We're
looking for trends
looking for
and
trends and
areas that need to
guidance.
be dealt with.
Yes. It's more than anything areas that we want to put the spotlight on.
Good.
It's not completed, so I will be pushing it out again, and hopefully this last iteration will be the one that gets accepted once I
Okay.
add everything. So
Well,
it'll be ready for December.
Yeah, go ahead.
I did. It may not be statistically significant or a correlation, but the stories are very that we can tell about it are powerful. I know
Yes.
I've told the story about obesity. Our obesity rates are not as high as other parts of Massachusetts,
Mhm.
and we also don't have fast food restaurants. So, not that that's a correlation necessarily, but it's an interest. And people are like, "Oh, wow,
I think that's
great."
I think that's
Wow.
a fascinating observation.
It's a great observation.
So it's a nice story.
Yeah.
People are like, "Wow."
It's a great observation. It's definitely the concept of, we can always say, correlation does not equal causation, but it does definitely give you a talking point. It is something to discuss.
This document is for areas, for stories to tell and for areas for the health department to concentrate on.
Yes.
That's what it's for, and it's
Yes.
great.
And it actually kind of ties into the next portion.
Director's
so-
report.
Into the director's report. So we've been working with this, the strategic plan and the community health assessment, which if you are interested in taking a look, I can get that to you. Just come after and we can get the information. One of the things that we're doing is we're using this, they call it the three legs of the stool for public health accreditation is the CHA, CHIP, and the strategic plan. The CHA is the community health assessment. The CHIP is what the hospital did, our community health improvement plan, and our strategic plan. In that strategic plan, we are talking about a community health officer to create a community health aspect of the health department. I have received a lot of positive conversations about that whenever it gets brought up. Whenever it gets brought up, we hear a lot of positive response. Our human services director, Rachel, is very interested in working together and how we can definitely get this sort of information out there and do this work together. I do see a lot of collaboration with the Human Services Office moving forward once our Island Home Administrator gets hired. We see really good work on the horizon. The National Association of the City and County Health Officials just gave the health department a $8,000 grant to do a performance management assessment of the health department. And the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, has also added a separate fund for that to invite me down to Washington, D.C. to discuss with the CDC and NACHO, the original group that I mentioned, so as part of a rural health initiative, so that they can discuss with myself and other rural health directors across the country to see how we can pursue accreditation in an easier manner. They picked approximately, I was just on the conference call, it was 8 and 8. So they picked 16 health departments across the country that are part of this rural health initiative. We will be flying down to Washington, D.C. in January, and we will be sharing best practices, best discussions, and see how the CDC can help us provide better services for our community. So it's a huge step, something the health department here has never seen before.
Congratulations.
So I owe a lot of that help to my staff, and in particular my intern, Amelia Murphy. She has been excellent at the work that she's doing, and I know she is a high school student, but she has turned in better work than most of my graduate students over the years.
So we have
It's
a
very
public health
impressive.
officer in the making.
She's going to end up running this department one day. If we can convince her to stay in Nantucket after she's done, she'll be ending up running this department one day.
Maybe she'll sign up for next summer.
Yeah. Yeah, she's been with the town. She's been working with my office for almost 2 years now.
Good.
So, but we're losing her to college next year. Then the next one is the venison donation program. We've been seeing a lot of response on social media. There was an ad in the newspaper for it. From what I've heard, Mr. Wallace he's getting response. I don't have an exact number yet.
I'm sorry. I can respond to that.
Yeah.
We've had 5 or 6 deer donated now. The meat has been ground and bagged and taken downtown, and hopefully that'll continue. The environmental officer is very interested in helping with the program, so he'll be there when they do the tagging and at the station and Surfside. So that'll be a big help because he's very enthusiastic, and I think we'll see a large increase when we get to shotgun season, which is coming up shortly.
Good.
This week. So we've already got 6 deer in bow season alone, and that's
It'd be nice if the paper did an article on Dylan, just because this year it has a different twist on it, because he's
Yeah.
teaching people in the restaurant business who are interested in
Yeah,
learning how
nice
to
skills.
do proper butchering.
yeah. That's a great point.
Yeah.
I'll get in contact with Josh.
Especially in the winter when the paper gets thinner.
Little thin. Yeah, no, Dylan is
Make a
very
good story,
enthusiastic
yeah.
about it.
Make a great story.
It's a great program, and it's the state official, Mr. Garger, is very, very enthusiastic about it. I fielded a phone call from Martha's Vineyard about 3 weeks ago, asking about the program and how it's been and how people have received it. So they're hoping to emulate a similar program. So it's been
Good.
it's an exciting time.
Yeah.
And then we've done our budget meetings, and I have put in for an extra inspector and the community health officer. I ran some numbers, and we did each inspector did 768 inspections last year on average. So let me give you the exact number here. In fiscal year 2017, we did 2,238 inspections. That's a 26% increase from FY15, and it's approximately a 10% increase from FY16. Sorry, I transposed the numbers. We did 746 inspections per inspector, which translates to 9 inspections per workday. That's three per inspector, and each inspection takes close to about an hour, plus all the associated paperwork. And that's not including trainings, emails, walk-in customer requests, soil evaluations, which can take half a day even or longer, and other basic code enforcement responses.
How many inspectors do we have?
3,
This one. 3.
and that's including the
Jim?
So with the installation of the new sewer system, do you all have to make an inspection of those sewers?
no, not the sewers themselves. That's the sewer department,
Okay.
which is.
I'm just trying to think of ways to justify your incremental. I mean, if there's a way you can project increased inspections next year, you would make your case.
Mhm. If right now I only have the 3 data points because before I started there was no data collection. So with what we've been seeing in trends is about a 9.6% increase every year in inspections.
I just wonder if there's some other program that's going to put a bunch, but if not, I'm sure. So.
Well, it's time. And when you go to the Finance Committee, let me know.
Okay.
Because I would like, particularly, inspections are important, but we really need a health officer to deal with this stuff.
Yes.
Like most modern health departments. When I was on the Board of Health in New Jersey, we had one, and she was just fabulous.
Yes.
Really, I mean, it really made a difference, I think.
Mm-hmm. And the other justification as far as a community health officer goes, we've received $16,000 worth of grants in the past year. Thank you to the Community Association and the CDC, and now this new program through NACHO. That's about $16,000. And that's the low end of grants that are available. A community health officer would also double as a grant writer,
Exactly.
and we would be able to offset a lot of the cost.
A lot of cost.
I know the Hudson Health Department, the director there, who actually just replaced me in Framingham, but he was one of my mentors. His health department in Hudson was about 85% grant funded. So the money's there.
That would make our selectmen and other people quite happy. if
Very
you
happy.
had that kind of
We're
money.
pretty happy with the Board of Health now. So.
But financially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, anything else?
that's it right
Okay,
now.
so we meet, I think, on December 21st, right before Christmas. Do we want to meet that day? Will people be... The only thing we really had pending is this cap issue.
Yes. We can do the 21st, or if the board is available to...
I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here.
So we'll go. We'll do it.
21st, okay.
And we'll focus that meeting on a good discussion on loan caps.
Loans.
With
Perfect.
the information.
Perfect.
Anything else? New business from the board? Hearing no objections, then we will dismiss for the day. See you in December.
Take care.